Good morning, everyone. It's 10:04 my time. I'm in Boulder, Colorado. It's snowy and freezing. I'm seeing some other weather reports out there. So we have Nashville in the house, Berlin, Sheboygan, which is a charming name, Madison, Mexico City, Ohio. Let's all take a good posture. We have 1 hour together. Let's calm our minds. Take a great posture, your best posture of the week, and then relax that posture. And with eyes open, with respect and friendliness, and openness, curiosity for the next hour, let's give it away with a bow. So, 1 second. So I have a sick dog in the house. So I'm a little kind of under the weather and sleepy today. My dog just went into surgery yesterday and had a really brutal night, but is doing much better. He's an old dog, so he had surgery on a few lumps. So I wanted to maybe begin with that. We're here to talk about Maitri. What is Maitri? Maybe a couple definitions from anyone. Does anyone know what Maitri is? I would define Maitri in a dictionary way as making friends with yourself, but it's the practice of doing that. So it's the Buddhist meditation path of doing that. You don't have to be Buddhist to practice Maitri, but it's a universal thing. You can develop Maitri without being Buddhist, of course. But there is a Buddhist path for how to do that all of us can practice, but we have to do it kind of properly. We can't just do it half-heartedly or casually or speedily. So here's a couple definitions. Loving kindness to yourself, even the ugly parts. From Jan, good morning. Cindy, self-compassion. I love that. So let's try to give a personal definition now. A couple of us have said kind of the formal definitions. A personal definition for me would be being patient and kind to myself. Whatever's going on. Being patient with myself and kind to myself. Whatever's going on. And I think that patience and kindness manifests not just as like, oh, Waylon, you're great no matter what. It manifests as an ability to have a bigger heart around myself. Meaning, if I F up, I can be honest with myself about effing up. So it's not, Maitri isn't some sort of narcissistic empathy for ourselves. Like, whatever I do is great. So it is giving ourselves grace. It is self-compassion. It is loving kindness even to the ugly parts, being kind to myself when we mess up. But there's a real quality also of being willing to be honest with ourselves when we mess up. One of the defining qualities of being an adult to me is being willing to accept some responsibility. One of the defining qualities of being a grown-up is being willing to accept some responsibility. It's kind of in vogue on social media now. I'm sure some of you have read this, to say, I make no apologies for this, or, accept no BS from other people, or take no shite, right? So there's a real quality of like, F you, that, thank you so much. All three of us are sick here. We're under the weather. Michelle just brought me some hot water and she's a little under the weather too. So do people connect with that? that this isn't about just empathy or kindness or patience with ourselves, but there's some level of, because we're kind to ourselves, we can be honest with ourselves. Like a best friend in our lives, yeah, no regrets, no apologies. Because we're kind to ourselves, because we're understanding and we like ourselves, fundamentally, we can be honest with ourselves too. Does that connect for anyone? Someone was in Vermont, I saw. So I'm not sure if comments are delayed. Yes, honesty is important. Anyone else? Be like Jan. Let's have a little give and take. We have 345 folks here. We don't want to get distracted by chatting, but we do want to have a little bit of ping pong so that we know if we're on the same page. So I want to make that point because it's very important that Maitri isn't just narcissism, that Maitri isn't just whatever I do is okay, that Maitri isn't just all about me. Maitri is the path to not only making friends with ourselves no matter what, which is a very comforting notion, that we can, anywhere we go in life, we can be our own best friend. You ever have the feeling of going to a party alone and you feel like, I mean, not lately, but for most of us, and you feel alone, you wish you could go with your best friend or a good friend. Well, that's what Maitri gives us. It gives us the quality of having a best friend with us through thick and thin. A best friend who will hold our hair when we've drunk too much and go to the party with us, right? Accountability. Well said, Rebecca. And it's not just a kind of cold accountability. It's a kind of like we're kind to ourselves so we can say, you know what, Waylon, you shouldn't have eaten all 4 plates of nachos. That probably wasn't a good thing. It's just a level of being honest with yourself, whether it's something silly like nachos or something serious like being a jerk in my relationship, whatever it is. So that's the first step, that it gives us that self kind of confidence. There's a level of confidence that happens. And then the fruition of Maitri is that we can be available for others. So to bring it back to a concrete level, when Redford is, going through agony last night, just moaning and crying in pain endlessly and endlessly, or dealing with my concerns about his health before we went to the surgery, because the vet, who was wonderful, had said, putting a 14-year-old dog with a minor heart issue into, under with anesthesia for over an hour can be very dangerous. It could affect him for life. So dealing with that nervousness or that empathy that I felt for him, but also being able to hold my seat and not give in to anxiety or becoming kind of fear-based, is Maitri, right? That I was able to feel how I was feeling and understand that, but then also not get caught up in it and be there for him, or be there for Michelle, or be there for the people in my life, my colleagues, right? And I am by no means a master of this. I am a practitioner of this. That is what this is about. We can all practice this. So what it has given me, though, is a well of strength. And I might F up. I certainly do. But it's given me a well of relaxation, or a well of strength that can hold me through some tough times. So I can still be available for those tough times, for the people in them, for myself, and not just get caught up. So as you all know, we offer this Maitri course. I think Molly or Emily are here. It's, I think, what are the dates of the Maitri course? Anyway, if you click below, you'll find the dates. I guess I could click below. ironically. And so, oh, it says 3 days. Brilliant. What's the dates of this course? I don't see it. February 1st through February 25th. So for the month of February, we're going to do a kind of Buddhist version of New Year's resolutions. This New Year's resolution and this meeting is a follow-up to our January 1st meeting, is not about being a better person. Resolutions tend to be, I want to be more organized, I want to be cleaner, I want to lose 5 pounds, I want to gain 5 pounds of muscle, I want to do this, I want to do that. And nothing's wrong with resolutions, right? A lot of them are well-intentioned. But there's a level of like, I'm here and I want to get there. Maitri is more like, we're here, we're not in our bodies, we're not in our minds, we're not in our hearts, and we want to get here. So that's why in past years I've called this the unresolution. So we're going to actually practice it. We're not just going to talk about it. We're going to practice how to develop that strength of confidence, that strength of patience, that strength of empathy for ourselves and therefore for others, because we're so available. We're not caught up in ourselves out here. We're not caught up in drama out here. Anyone here get caught up in drama? So Maitri kind of dissolves that. It's sort of like putting salt on the ice, which drives me insane actually. But we can put Maitri salt on the ice of our drama or neurosis or self-obsession, which actually isn't kind to ourselves, and we can dissolve that. And then all we're left with is we're right here. As Suzuki Roshi, the Buddhist teacher, says, we're all perfect as we are. So take that in. You know, that's a radical notion. It doesn't mean that your neurosis is great, or your drama, or your aggression, or your laziness, or your clinging, or your attachment, or your ignorance, or whatever is perfect. But fundamentally, we have the sun of basic goodness within us. That's why in the Shambhala or the Buddhist tradition, we often say, good morning, sunshine. That's what we said at the Buddhist summer camps. It's cheesy to a lot of you probably, but when it makes you think of basic goodness, the sun of basic human goodness is always rising. And even if there's clouds over it, you know, you just have to clear the air and there it is. You already have that sun of basic goodness. So Suzuki Roshi says, you're all perfect as you are, and you could stand some improvement. It's a 2-part quote. And that second part is classic sort of Buddhist humor. You're perfect as you are, and you could stand some improvement. So you're perfect as you are. That's the fundamental revelatory notion of basic goodness. That isn't just a theory. You can actually experience it. And we've talked about, you know, in Buddhism, there's teachings, and we'll go through that in the Maitri course, to recognize basic goodness so that it's not just a theoretical thing. But then how do you practice that and develop that strength and that relaxation? So I want to pause here and take any questions. I don't see any ask a question, but let's do that. And then let's have a little discussion. So it's not just my voice. And I'm sorry, I'm a little stuffed up today. But I'm trying to do my best to be very available and present. So I guess the final point I would make is that all of society is constantly pushing us, especially in capitalism, to, thank you so much. To the what? Oh. All of society is constantly encouraging us to buy, right? to get this thing, to do this thing. Even at Elephant, we're encouraging you to do this course. I want to be really clear that we made Maitri not to be a course that is about money or that is about product or is about changing you, but is a genuine course of what I was given that was most helpful to me in my life and passing that along. And we want to keep it affordable. That's part of the reason if you join this, you can, I think you get like a third off, $150, the Maitri course. You know, money isn't evil. With that money, we can pay Molly's salary, we can pay Emily's salary, we can pay Katie's salary, we can pay mine, we can pay to expand the academy and pay for the platform that the academy is on. But our motivation for this course is not mercenary or capitalistic particularly. It is straightforward. It's to offer something that I learned the hard way often, and hopefully we can teach it and pass it along the easy way. I mean, I really learned it the easy way from teachers who had also learned it, but we all learn it the hard way through our lives. Yeah, I mean, Redford's right here. He's doing really well compared to yesterday. Yesterday was brutal. But yeah, if we want to take a moment to. So Redford's a 14-year-old, very healthy, active, but slowing down, half hound, all trouble, as I like to say, half lab, doggy, and his middle name is Scotch. That was his adopted name when I got him, and he came from a puppy mill outside of Oxford, Mississippi, and he's a good boy and a dear friend, and I think I cried like repeatedly yesterday, I think 8 times. So thank you so much for suggesting that, Cindy. And may Redford heal and not suffer too much more pain and have new and regained use of that leg that he had surgery on. And then he also had a few other bumps removed. And thank you so much. It's very sweet. And honestly, so many people have expressed care for him and you know, toward me that it made it much easier. I felt like I had a community strength behind me. So I really appreciate that. And I don't want to get all vegan on anyone, but the love that we can, you know, feel it crying for him, like I think 8 times yesterday, or 6 times, the love that we can feel for one animal and when we get to know them, we can feel for just about any animal. So just consider that and try to look into dairy and meat and how it is and how it comes to be. And the more we can extend that love to all sentient beings in this life, the more peaceful we'll be inside and out in this world and within our own blood, you know, mind and bloodstreams. Alyssa, as a single person, it can feel like I have to be as marketable as possible, like on a selling block. Hard to self-love when being assessed like that. How to stay in self-love while being judged by others in that way. Alyssa, my personal advice, because I went through dating forever, is there's some beautiful quotes that I've shared from time to time. They're actually in my book, I think, Things I Would Like to Do With You, but which is about relationships. You may enjoy that book. You can buy the ebook for very cheap. It's elephantjournal.com/books, but without marketing at you. My personal advice is the most attractive thing, I think we all have friends like this, is Maitri. The most attractive thing is someone who has made friends with themselves. When someone has made friends with themselves, then they are ready for love. So my personal advice, Alyssa, would be to take a step back, actually, not out of dating particularly, but, you know, really get to know and love yourself in a genuine way, fundamentally. And then your resilience and your self-care and your relationship with yourself will make you so attractive, not only to others, but will help you be stabilized and understanding in any prospective relationship that were to occur. Because one of Maitri is actually, in my view, the ultimate foundation for a relationship with someone else. Because, and Alyssa, is very interesting. In the Buddhist tradition, we don't love affirmations, and we don't love like, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, then gosh darn it, people like me. Maitri is sort of the opposite of that. Maitri is actually saying, you might not be good enough, you might not be smart enough, Waylon, people might not like you, Waylon, but none of that really matters because you're fundamentally good. And you can breathe into that. You can actually get to know that. You can get to know yourself. And then you can kind of exist in a dignified, uplifted, open, curious way, whether people like you or not. And ironically, when you're like that, people are magnetized to you because you're not necessarily a gaping hole looking for approval. You've done some tough work. And that's what the Maitri course is. So I hope people come join us. I think we already have, I don't know, Molly can say, but like 50 people in. I hope people practice this. And it's something I selfishly get to do every single time. It is not something to do once. It's a lifelong path. And I guarantee when we do this course, I am constantly renewing my practice. We have videos with Sharon Salzberg, who talks about metta or Maitri. We have videos, I think, with, who else do we have? My mom. So there's various Buddhist teachers who come in and, or already recorded. And so you're not just like learning from me. I'm an idiot, but I'm an idiot who is okay with being an idiot. And I have made friends with myself. So we're all idiots on some level, right? But, I'm also intelligent and caring and a sweetheart. And, it's okay to say those things about ourselves as well. Any other questions? I think veganism, I don't want to go too into that, but since you asked, I would just say, in the Buddhist tradition at the end, we say, by this merit may all sentient beings attain enlightenment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We do a little chant after every meal. So I think the notion of being kind to others, whether it's a tree or a dog or a chicken or a cow or other people or ourselves, is just simple and fundamental. And I think we all grew up in different ways, so we have different traditions. And some of those traditions are beautiful and fun, but I think we can do a little better. And for myself, that's been my own path. Yeah, so we'll be live in community. We'll have a curriculum. We'll have study. We'll have groups. All right, ask a question. If you all go into ask a question real quick and upvote the ones you want, I will discuss those. Any other questions? Please, let's put them in ask a question, and then I'll reread the agenda we have, but I think we've covered most of it on a simple level. I think let me first talk about anxiety and give you guys a chance to vote on which questions you want answered and put in your own question. So anxiety is something that a lot of us, anyone here feel anxiety? You can write height or yes in the sidebar. Height just means yes in Japanese. It's a nice affirmative that we have that tradition in Elephant Academy. I had some Japanese teachers who always asked us to say height, not yes, because height is such a positive, affirmative, clarity kind of thing. So a lot of us experience anxiety, not just sometimes, but for our whole lives. I feel like Michelle, my partner, who's not here, so I can talk behind her back, is someone who is happy and relaxed and like a flower that opens when she doesn't have anxiety. And when she has anxiety, which is a lot of the time, not in a unreasonable way, but a lot of the time, stress, anxiety, there's a sort of defensive quality going on, right? And when she's relaxed and happy and warm, she opens like a flower. And that's something we could do all the time. So that's our practice, right? Anxiety isn't my biggest obstacle. I have other obstacles. A lot of us in life have different obstacles, right? Pema Chodron says We all have different paths to the mountaintop, right? So my obstacle is more speediness. I'm For all my Buddhist practice, I like to fill the space. That's why I write about speediness and about slowing down and about being present so often, because it's something I have to work on. But anxiety for a lot of us is a big thing. I had anxiety the night before Redford went into surgery, where I woke up for a couple hours and just went through all that. Some of that is practical, but most of it is just stress exercising itself. So the wonderful thing about anxiety is that Maitri, again, is like a hot, big old stew. And then you put in some anxiety and it just melts into it. So if that sounds good, give yourself the gift of Maitri. Maitri is a practice and a path. And again, I call it the ultimate New Year's resolution or unresolution, because it's not about becoming better. It's about relaxing into who you are. But that takes hard work. And it takes swimming upstream away from where society kind of wants you to go, which is, get rid of your wrinkles, get rid of your hair loss, get rid of your 5 pounds of extra weight. Society tries to make you conform to some notion of success and beauty that when you get there, if you get there, you're not even happier, particularly. You might be in little ways, like exercising can be healthy. Not all resolutions are bad, of course, but Maitri is the greatest gift you could give yourself, whether you do this course or not. Read books about Maitri, practice Maitri, and if you want to do it in community, you can do it with us. And it is a gift that will be a foundational layer, like a layer in rock, that you will stay with you for the rest of your life. Exactly. Amanda Gorman in New York Times. Being brave enough doesn't mean lessening my fear, which you can't really do, but listening to it. And when you pay attention to your fear, I say this about writer's block in our writer's courses. When you listen and you open, it actually does lessen. It might heighten at first because you're actually paying attention to it instead of suppressing it. But if you can practice with that, if you have the tools, which is what we're going to do in the green button, fear doesn't become a source of fear. Fear is just another thing. So from Janice, how does Maitri come into play when others don't accept that we make mistakes? I think a big part, since you're talking about others, Janice, is communication. So a lot of people think that we think we're perfect or think that we should be perfect, but then hold themselves to a different standard, right? So I think you just have to constantly make the point, which I've tried to do in this class right now, in this hour together, that we're not perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm really great in some ways, and I'm stupid as can be in other ways. And I have strengths, things I'm naturally good at. I have strengths, things that I have developed over time, talents, craft, and I have habitual patterns, right? That I'm working with right now. So again, kind of like what Alyssa said, on some level, it becomes a little bit irrelevant if they can't accept that we make mistakes, because we have a level of confidence. In Buddhism, they talk about mountain. We are like a mountain. We are dignified and we are awe-inspiring, and we just sit and stand where we sit and stand. And there's some level of like, they call it the big no in Buddhism. So the big no is this sort of profound level of discipline, but that discipline is based on not just renunciation, but on joy. So it's a discipline with joy. So if that just sounds like a lot of gobbledygook words, it means that we don't need to, run hither and thither trying to appeal to people constantly, which is totally my thing. I am a people pleaser, and I am I want everyone to like me. So it's really funny that I got involved in Elephant Journal, this online world, social media, where there's always going to be people who dislike you, who hate your book, who hate, who have crazy ideas about you and write insane stuff about you, that has very little bearing on facts or reality. That is just how the internet is. And I think it's totally a divine cosmic joke that a people pleaser who wants everyone to like him gets involved in social media. It's not the smartest move. So on some level, you know, we're all going to make mistakes. I make mistakes every single day. I've probably made mistakes today already. And you have to be able to make friends with that for yourself. And then hopefully others can get to know that part of you. I don't know if that helps at all. Janice, do you want to follow up comment? So Heidi, with Maitri, do we work with our clinging and aggression? Or is it more of a kindness practice that loosens those things over time? Well, it's both. So we work directly with clinging, aggression, ignorance, laziness, and then meditation is a practice that loosens, that's really beautifully put, loosens things over time. So I was really appreciating myself the last few days around this Redford surgery thing, because I felt a real well of patience and relaxation and kind of confidence, capability to handle this that I wasn't necessarily expecting to feel there. And I think that well of confidence, again, is not attributable to my ego, to how fabulous I am, but to a gentle process of developing meditation. And over time, it layer and layer and layer of Maitri develops, and that Maitri manifests as confidence without arrogance. I hope that answered. Janice, I'm sorry if I'm a little fuzzy, but I hope that did help. HM, how does this apply to people who cannot or will not exhibit empathy and who do not have delimiters to relationally toxic behavior? That is a fabulous question. There's a notion of Maitri or being kind or being nice. That sort of quality in the cynical world will what? Will be taken advantage of, will be victimized, will be bullied, will be pushed around, will be unappreciated, will be just weak. Does that land for anyone? Anyone else feel that before we go farther? Three out of 374 people. Are we all multitasking, or have we all fallen asleep? Maitri takes a lot more than multitasking. It's going to take being present and being willing to give this to yourself. It's going to take your involvement. So I love that, Mary. My answer to that would be, to that question would be, this isn't a naive philosophical kindness. This is a kindness rooted in getting to know ourselves and being able to deal with everything. The most macho quality truly on earth is not, driving a badass truck around or whatever, owning a bunch of guns, whatever, eating a steak, whatever. It's being able to face and deal with and actually, play cards with and befriend your own demons or habitual patterns, and actually get to know yourself and become fully who you are. And at that point, in Buddhism, there's the notion of Vajra, which is indestructible. There's actually a notion that when you become fully who you are, without solidity, without aggression, there's an invincible, indestructible quality to that. And that kind of strength and solidity we've seen in many different individuals in history. Nelson Mandela, that kind of getting to know yourself fully. Desmond Tutu, I think we saw it in Colin Powell. Uh, None of this is to say any of these people are perfect, but we see Jane Goodall. A lot of these people you see are just incredibly powerful and can deal with this world quite powerfully. Martin Luther King Jr., right? Maya Angelou. In looking at her trauma and her, the raw aggression that she had experienced in her life, became one of the strongest people any of us know or have known of. And that is, yes, Christine, that is confidence with yourself. So Maitri isn't, can't we all just get along, although nothing's wrong with that notion, but it's a strength. You're developing a strength of goodness. So in Buddhism, they say, open front, you're open, but strong back, you're strong. So HM or hum, it applies because we are not, there's the Buddhist notion of idiot compassion. Idiot compassion is when we are compassionate, because we can't deal with our own feelings. So we're compassionate to others to try to make things better because we can't deal with our own feelings. So we're compassionate in a way that actually isn't skillful or that actually isn't helpful. It's called enabling, right? So we don't give in to others who don't exhibit empathy. We don't give in to others who exhibit toxic behavior. We don't go along with. When we're compassionate to them, that could look like tough love. That could look like giving them space. That could look like clear boundaries. That's a great question. Reasonable anxiety. I think that comes back to that Amanda Gorman quote, Kendall, which is that, of course, you're going to experience anxiety and stress and fear and hunger, and you're still human. We're still human, but we're just not anxious about our anxiety. The anxiety actually tells us stuff. It says, oh, maybe you should be ready for this. And then you get ready for that. So there's a level of, it helps you work with anxiety, right? Even if I'm anxious and I'm stressed out about Redford, I don't get all caught up in it and feed it. I just, experience it and wait for it to pass. And I don't get caught up in it, hopefully, too much. And if I do, then I keep practicing. I have social anxiety, Sheila, which of course limits my HM. Good. Colleen, exactly. Michelle kind of called me on that last night. I was like, really? Redford was squealing in pain. I mean, just crying and couldn't lay still and and my empathy for him is such that I'm like almost tied to him, and I wanted to help in some way. I wanted to, give him something. And she said, it's going to be challenging for you when you have a teething child, and it was real like, wow, yeah, you're right. I mean, I've done everything I can do basically with Redford. And on some level, I have to let him fall asleep. So I don't want to just pet him all the time. But of course, I pet him a bunch. So on some level, you have to let go. And that can be hard, but that dissolves idiot compassion and that dissolves enabling. Not with Redford, but with, tough people in our lives. From Sheila, I have social anxiety, which of course limits my connections with other people. I have done a great deal of healing work and love and accept myself, yet it still lingers. I think that's beautiful, Sheila. I think that is, it sounds like you've walked your own path of Maitri. I think the Buddhist upaya, skillful means, techniques developed over centuries and meditation could really help. So maybe add that to the recipe, add that to the stew. But it sounds like you're on that path and you're doing well. And of course, it's going to linger. And um, I love that you say you have it. You are not it, but you have it. It's a habitual pattern or a tendency or a quality that you have, but it's not you fundamentally. And I think it is part of what's beautiful about you. And you'll make friends with that over time. Maybe Maitri would help. But it's irritating that things linger even when we're aware of them and we work with them. But then we work with that irritation and then we come back. It's just a craft. You just come back to the craft. Oh, Maggie, I understand. Okay, so Molly, Waylon, I'm curious, are you always aware of when you're practicing Maitri, or does it feel like second nature after you've practiced it? So practicing Maitri is kind of a formal thing, so you're definitely aware when you're doing it. We will do the practice of Maitri. It's not theoretical again, but the well of Maitri that develops in you over time, yeah, I don't know. I think it's a good feeling. It's sort of like wearing a coat that keeps you warm in the cold. So you are aware of that warmth, but you also can kind of take it for granted. Not in a negative way, but you can feel it, that warmth, especially when there's a cold wind, when something rough happens in your life. You appreciate that warm coat, but you don't actively think about it. Great question. Kendall, what to do when we have given up on kindness to ourselves and fallen into entire self-hate and abdication on hope for feeling any differently? Well, I mean, just the fact that you're asking that question means you haven't completely given up. If you're speaking of yourself, on being kind to yourself, you're still curious, and that curiosity itself is awake Buddha nature goodness. And on the other hand, I've written about losing heart. So if you do Maitri, ask me about losing heart. But losing heart is actually a profound step in the path of Maitri. Hitting rock bottom, depression, loneliness, giving up on kindness to ourselves, falling into self-hate, abdication of hope for feeling any differently. That's actually, if you bring that to the path, which is right here, you don't have to go anywhere, is actually a profound step in letting go of ego. And ego is that I need to be better, I need to be better, I need to be better thing. What you're saying is you're actually kind of giving up, perhaps, and that giving up can be a positive thing. We're giving up on self-aggression. I need to be better, and you're giving up, and then all you have is what you are, and then you can work with that. And what we are isn't a solid thing. I think we think soul, goodness. A lot of these words can feel very solid, but what we are is sort of like a flower or a breath or a wave. It's always changing and moving. But there is some solid existence to the ocean or to the flower or to the breath, to the wind. I hope that's not too theoretical, but basically none of that is a problem, Kendall, I will say, as long as you join it with the path of Maitri, either in your own life, in your own practice, in your own study, or with us. You're cordially invited. Yeah, losing heart. I've written about it on Elephant if you find it. But yeah, because I've gone through periods. Who here has gone through periods of losing heart, of giving up on kindness to ourselves, falling into self-hate, abdication of hope for feeling any differently? Who has hit rock bottom before? That can be a profound and healthy place to connect with, because we're finally letting go of bullshit. Excuse my French. We're finally letting go of bullshit. And we're just looking at what is so hard and painful. We spend our whole lives avoiding what is hard and painful. So a lot of us have gone through this, Kendall. As you can see, a lot of responses here. Where were you guys 10 minutes ago? And big hug to you, Kendall. We got you. And that's one of the magic, beautiful things about the Maitri course that we're going to do in February is we have community. It's not about me, it's about us. And it's about you. So Heidi, with some humor, a Buddhist teacher said, this too I get to experience. So we can have compassion for the millions of other people who have and will be or feel that. Exactly, Heidi, you beat me to it. B, I have never thought of the message I need to be better being ego-driven. Is there a difference between this and the drive to grow, or is it that dependent on motivation? Exactly, B. There's nothing wrong with wanting to improve or to exercise or any of that, as long as the motivation is not some sort of subtle self-aggression. And often wanting to improve is a subtle self-aggression, right? So it's really just based on, if you want to be excellent, if you want to be competitive, all those things are fine, as long as they're based on some sense of friendship with yourself. Andrea, thank you. All right, I think we're done. Who here is doing Maitri in February? That discount in the green button is available today. I guess it's available for a few days, but I plan to make it not available tomorrow, so we may change that. So if you want to do it, join today, join tomorrow morning, join today. Who here is doing Maitri? Is anyone? This is not a hard sell. This is the end of our hour together. Anyone else? I see 3 people. All right. Thank you, everyone. 4. Let's we can end with a bow. And big love to everybody. I hope to see you in. Molly or Emily, how many people do we have signed up for Maitri right now? I think we're hoping for around 100 total. Yeah, I mean, it's so appropriate for Valentine month to fall in love with yourself or make friends with yourself as a foundation. All right, let's take a good posture and give it away. All right, hope to see you in February. Thank you so much, everyone. Big love. Feel free to leave a message of goodbye before we hang up. And maybe one thing you're going to take away with it, whether you join or not, one thing that was helpful to you. One comment or question. Anyone?